Welcome back to Deions Dope Dishes. This is episode number 2, and today we will be getting into breakfast. So we're going to be making a French toast with fried chicken and a nice berry reduction. And doesn't that all sound delicious and super fancy? Because it is. You could be using this food to impress bae. You could do it to impress family. You could do it just for a real quick brunch jump off. Pair it with some mimosas. So all right, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna make is our berry reduction, because we're gonna wanna make that first so that we can put it into the fridge so that by the time that the French toast and the fried chicken is done, it's ready to just pour right on top of that delicious French toast and make everything great. So what you're gonna need is about a cup of sliced strawberries. You're also gonna need about half a cup or half a pound, which is probably about also a cup of blueberries, raspberries, and red berries. I broke it down even more into the recipe that's gonna be underneath the video, but let's get this all mixed together. So first we're gonna wanna take our strawberries, forgot the word strawberry for a second, and cut them up so we can just get those stems off and cut them in half so that we can get them into the pot to get them nice and reduced down. I'm sure you can see by now, wow, these aren't the prettiest strawberries I've ever seen, Dion. Well, that's okay, because we're gonna throw them into a pot and cook them down anyway, so nobody cares. So let me go ahead and get my knife. And it's nothing super hard. Just cut off the little green part and then cut that in half. So I'm basically gonna be using about half this container. And you can throw your stems and such into the garbage or into the garbage disposal. Now, like I said, guys, it sounds super fancy, but all literally we're gonna be doing is throwing these berries into a sauce pot and then just putting it over a nice medium heat and cooking out all the sweetness and flavors of the berries along with some sugar to give it that syrupy consistency. All right, I think I'm gonna eat this one. So we're gonna go ahead and take our strawberries, put them into this pot here. Go ahead and put it on our blueberry, raspberry, blackberry mixture. And then save some, because we're gonna mix it with the syrup at the end. So, go ahead and put this over medium-high heat. And along with that, you're gonna go ahead and put 2/3 of a cup of sugar. Sorry, y'all, I said 2/3. I definitely meant to say 2/4. Now, go ahead and let that kind of get incorporated together in the pan / pot and let it come up to a nice boil. So you're gonna go ahead and take a lemon and you're gonna go ahead and cut it in half. Just that easy. Lemon, now it's in half. And you're just gonna put, like I said, you can measure it out if you want. I'm eyeballing it. About half a tablespoon of lemon juice in there. Once you start to see it boiling, if Dion can find a spoon, he has found one. You're gonna go ahead and take a spoon, kind of start to mix that up. Let that come to a nice boil once again. Reduction has been boiling nicely over here. So once it's been boiling for about 5 minutes, you're gonna take it to the blender. So we're gonna pull out the Ninja. Pop the top off of there. We're gonna take our berries and sugar lemon mixture and pour it into the blender. You want to make sure that you don't get anything splashed back up on you. It's going to be super hot, but make sure it's hot when you are blending it. You don't want to give it time to cool down or anything like that. All right. So you're gonna go ahead and take your mixture and you're going to puree it until it's as smooth as you can possibly get it. All right, so once you got that nice and blended up, oh my gosh, please come off. Release. Release, please. Oh, you heard that? Look at that. Goodness. I'm not gonna touch it because it's still molten. So, because we just blended up a bunch of strawberries and raspberries and blueberries and such, there's gonna be a bunch of tiny little seeds in there. Now this step isn't necessary, but it's gonna make your sauce kind of a weird consistency if you don't do it. So get a strainer, like a fine strainer like this one, if you have one. And you're gonna pour it over the strainer. You can take a ladle and kind of just move it around, not too harsh to make it splash over the sides, but kind of just move it around to help guide the sauce through the mesh strainer. Now once your sauce is nice and strained, you're going to put it in the fridge. Oh, nice. Look at that. Look at that. Nice. Yeah. Go ahead and taste. So, you're going to take your sauce and you're going to wrap it with some saran wrap. And kind of let it sit and cool down on the counter first before you put it into the fridge, because you never want to put something that's too hot into your fridge because it'll mess up the temperature of your fridge. But that's our sauce, guys. That was it. Just boiled it over some heat real quick, put it into the blender, strained it, and then you put it into the fridge until you're ready to use it. So I'm gonna just put this on the side. And now we can get started on our chicken. Right here is the chicken that I have been marinating for about 12 hours or so. I did it yesterday at 3. It's 1 now, so okay, like 11 hours. Don't quote me on the math. That's not what I went to school for. So, in this marinade, which is basically buttermilk and some spices, is 1/4 cup of sriracha, 4 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of curry powder, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 3 tablespoons of onion salt, and 2 cups of buttermilk, and 8 boneless chicken thighs. Now, I use boneless chicken thighs because since I made this channel mostly for people who I'm hoping are kind of getting started in the kitchen, if this is your first time kind of frying chicken or attempting to fry chicken, I always find that anything that doesn't have a bone in it is a little less pressure. So chicken thighs are usually the most moist part of the chicken. So seeing as that is the most moist part and it won't have a bone in it, we'll be able to fry it faster and with less pressure. All right, so I've marinated the chicken in buttermilk due to the fact that buttermilk has ingredients in it that kind of break down the proteins in the chicken and makes it tender and juicy and delicious. So now that we know that our chicken has been marinated for about 11 hours, now it doesn't have to be that long. A couple hours, yes, try to do it at least a couple hours, but at the best, do it as long as you can. 48 hours at the most, but the longer you do it, the better it's gonna taste and turn out to be. So let's get into our flour mixture. All right guys, so since the chicken is marinating in buttermilk, usually if I wasn't marinating in buttermilk, because there's all kinds of marinades you really can use if you're frying chicken, but since I'm marinating it in buttermilk, I won't be making like an egg wash or anything like that. I'm kind of just gonna take it straight out of the buttermilk and put it into the flour. So let's go ahead and make our seasoned flour mixture, because if you're not seasoning your flour, I cannot trust you. So let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna use about 3 cups of flour. And I'm putting it into this little container here so that I can easily just smack my cup. Now, along with that, clean as you cook, clean as you cook, clean as you cook. All right, along with that, I will be putting in about 2 tablespoons of Old Bay, which is totally optional because I know everybody doesn't have access to Old Bay. We in Maryland out here, so I have it. 2 tablespoons of paprika, 2 tablespoons of 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, and then about 2 tablespoons of chili powder, kind of letting the ancestors guide me with this one. 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper, and because I like it a lot, we're gonna put some curry in there because it's the key to life. Also about a tablespoon. All right, and lastly, salt and some pepper. And not too much salt because, well, if you use the Old Bay, you don't have to put that much salt in there because there's salt in the Old Bay. But if you don't put the Old Bay in there, then I would put about 2 tablespoons of salt. I'm gonna put about half a tablespoon. Now, once you get all of your seasonings into your flour, you're gonna go ahead and take a whisk or a fork and get it nice and mixed. So when you are frying chicken, the way at least I like to do it, is I like to try to have the pieces be nice and halfway submerged when I put the chicken in there. So probably like to where these 2 dots, kind of right under that. So I put my finger in. It goes to about here on my pinky, so that's probably about a good inch of oil. And put that over a on medium-high heat. And let that come to temperature. All right, guys, so while our oil is heating up, I'm gonna go ahead and make the milk mixture for our French toast. All right, so we're gonna use about 2 cups of whole milk, and you really can use any milk substitute or whatever that you want. And these French toast milk mixtures come in many shapes and sizes. There are people that use heavy cream, there are people that use buttermilk, there are people that use all kinds of stuffs to make their French toast. I'm gonna get a little fancy. I'm gonna use about a 1/4 cup of your favorite whiskey, because I'm grown. And it'll also be cooked out. We got about a tablespoon of nutmeg, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, about 1/2 cup of sugar, and 2 eggs. Now I'm only going a little fancy because I love French toast. I love French toast. I'm actually making 2 of probably one of my favorite foods on earth. Like, fried chicken is my jam, French toast is my jam, and I could eat it for breakfast every day. All right, now once you get all that stuff into your container, go ahead and give it a whisk. Make sure those yolks get broke. If ever you feel like your oil is too hot, you can just pour some room temperature oil in there to kind of just bring it back down a little bit. All right, so like I said, since we have our chicken in a nice buttermilk marinade already, it's not really super necessary to have that egg wash in between. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my chicken. And like I say all the time, guys, my hands are clean. Put it in the flour. Make sure you get it nice and coated evenly. And really, honestly, can put more than 1 piece in at a time, but not too many pieces. You can do this with a container, you can do it with a plastic bag. I'm sure, you know, if you've seen your auntie making fried chicken, she probably uses a plastic bag. Put it in there and just give it a shake. And I'm gonna get some tongy tongs. Let's get our chicken into the oil, always making sure that you put it in away from you. Oil is definitely hot. Since it's boneless, probably only needs about 10, 12 minutes or so. The American English expression fried chicken is first recorded in the 1830s and frequently appears in American cookbooks of the 1860s and 1870s. The origin of fried chicken in southern states of America has been primarily traced to origins in Scottish and West African cuisine. Scottish was cooked unseasoned in fat, West African seasoned and fried in palm oil. When it was introduced to the American South by the Scottish, fried chicken became a common staple. Once the slave trade led to Africans being brought to work on southern plantations, slaves who became cooks incorporated seasonings and spices that were absent in traditional Scottish cuisine, enriching the flavor. Since most slaves were unable to raise expensive meats, but generally allowed to keep chicken, frying chicken on special occasions continued in African American communities of the South. After the abolishment of slavery, it gradually passed into common use as a general Southern dish. Since fried chicken traveled well in hot weather before refrigeration was a commonplace, it gained further favor in the periods of American history when segregation closed off most restaurants to the black population. Alrighty. So our pieces that weren't experimental, we're gonna go ahead and take those out now. If I can grasp it, firmly grasp it. Oh yes. Wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Much better. Making sure to shake all that excess oil off. Alright guys, so the bread that we're going to be using for our French toast is going to be brioche bread. I think brioche French toast is the king of kings, the lord of lords, and the savior to us all when it comes to French toast. Anytime I go anywhere and they have French toast, if it ain't brioche, I'm not going to eat it. So, another good reason to use brioche is it has a nice consistency to it, like it has a nice density to it, so that it doesn't get super soggy and gross when you put it into the mixture. Bread's kind of like, you can really use any bread, really, but you know, some breads are just better than others to use for French toast. So, before I get to dipping, you're gonna want to coat your pan with butter. According to a collection of recipes from the early 5th century AD called the Apicius, the dish we now know as French toast existed as early as the age of the Roman Empire. In their style of French toast, called pan de lucis, Romans would soak bread in a milk and egg mixture, then fry it in oil or butter. Others believed that French toast was created by medieval European cooks who needed to use every bit of food they could to find to feed their families. They knew day-old bread could be revived when moistened and heated. They added the eggs for additional moisture and protein. The phrase French toast first appeared in print in the Encyclopedia of American Food and Drink, but it is known by a variety of names including German toast, eggy bread, French fried bread, gypsy toast, poor knights of Windsor, Spanish toast, nun's toast, and pain perdu, which means lost bread in French. Putting this piece of parchment paper onto this cookie sheet, because once I take the French toast out of the stove, off of the stove, I'm gonna put it into the oven to give it that nice crispiness at 350. Not for too long, just to give it a nice crisp crunch. All right, oven on 350. Go ahead and let it preheat until it gets to 350. All right, guys, so our oven is at a nice 350. So we're gonna go ahead and put our French toast in there. And we're only gonna leave it in there for like 4 minutes. That's it. All right, guys, now I've taken the French toast out of the oven, and since I've done that, I'm just gonna go ahead and garnish it and dust it with a little bit of cinnamon sugar. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, so there it is. Fried chicken and French toast. So we're gonna get ready to plate. So let's go ahead and get our preserves out of the fridge. All right, guys, look at that. So let's go ahead and get a spoon so we can see if it's syrup-like. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like that. And that was super easy, guys. I barely did anything to make this nice. So let's go ahead and put our plate together. All right, guys, there you have it. We've got French toast with a berry reduction and some nice fried chicken thighs on the side. And it's gonna be delicious, and I hope you guys had a great time making it. Let me know how it went for you in the comments, and please suggest whatever you'd like me to make in the comments as well. Thanks for tuning in to Deions Dope Dishes. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and all that jazz. All right, y'all, peace out.